Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Other Side of the Story podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Poole. And today we are on location in Warner Robins, Georgia at the Houston County High School with, I'm so excited, the head football coach, Coach Jeremy Edwards. Man, I love being able to come to this place. I had two of my children graduate from Houston County High School, two of the three. But Coach Edwards has been here for the last 2 years as the head football coach, been in coaching for the last 16 years. He's married, been married 14 years, has three wonderful children, girls, I believe.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be praying for you right now.
Please.
I had that one daughter, man. Anyway, three beautiful girls. And again, graduated from Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. So he's a Georgia man. He's from Decula, Georgia. And we're again excited that you're joining us because he has got a story. You know, the Other Side of the Story podcast is really trying to inspire you, motivate you, encourage you, and challenge you because everybody has a story. And I always say this, to a story, there's always a backstory. So, Coach, we welcome you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. And so being a head coach of literally a 6A program, which some of you might even understand that the classification, but a 6A program is based on student population. I think there's 2,000 students or so at Houston County High School.
A little over 2,000.
Yeah, major high school in the state of Georgia. So you're the head football coach for the last 2 years, and you have a journey, you have a story that got you to this position. And so just share some things maybe in your childhood, parents taught you, something that began to get in you, instill in you some things that you're experiencing even today.
Well, I think like most young boys, everybody grows up loving sports. When I grew up, Michael Jordan was king.
Yes,
He still is to a lot of people. But I had posters all over my room. It was all about sports. My whole life revolved around sports. Played every sport growing up, or at least tried. And, through high school, obviously playing football, my high school football coach made a huge impact on me. I always thought that they had the best job in the world, to be able to come in every day and coach and mentor kids. I thought it was huge. Going to college, I actually took a different route. I actually walked on at Georgia Southern.
Okay.
So I was actually a place kicker at Georgia Southern as a walk-on. I'm not the biggest guy, so that was my avenue. At the next level in high school, did some other things. But when I graduated from Georgia Southern with a sport management degree, I went into sales for about 3 years, and it wasn't a lot of fun. And that wasn't my end game, I guess. And so I felt like in order for me to, do what I want to do, I got to go back to school. So I was living in Metro Atlanta in Kennesaw, and I decided that I was going to give up my job. Worked 3 jobs to put myself through college a second time to get a second bachelor's degree at Kennesaw State and get a health and PE degree so I could be a PE teacher and coach football. So that led me to Kennesaw Mountain High School where I was a student teacher. I got the opportunity to coach, and they kind of threw me to the fire. I was able to kind of help out and coach receivers on the varsity level as a student teacher, and so it was a great experience. I worked for a guy named Scott Jones, who later became my boss at another stop. But I started off coaching in Gwinnett County, where I'm from, at Burtmar High School. Kind of a cool fun fact with that. My first year, we were a wing T offense. I was the receiver coach, and the guy that brought me on over there, decided to step away and retire, so they made me the offensive coordinator second year. I was not ready.
Nice.
My quarterback at Burtmar High School is famous to a lot of people. It's Quavo from the Migos. He was my quarterback at Burtmar, so I guess that's a small claim to fame. But he's done well for himself. But from there, I got to work for Bob Spire at North Gwinnett High School. I kind of took a step back. He let me run the freshman program, which gave me a chance to manage a lot of different coaches and a lot of kids at once at a very young age. From there, I got another opportunity to be a coordinator in Fulton County at Northview High School for a year. Wasn't looking to go anywhere, but the guy, my mentor really, that kind of hired me, Scott Jones, he got a job at North Paulding High School and asked me to come be the coordinator there. It was an opportunity to get closer to my wife's family. My father-in-law had just, he had cancer, and so it was an opportunity to get closer to him. So we did that, and I spent 4 years there. Again, you never know what God has in store for you, and I took a trip, did some interviews after 4 years there, and ended up at South Georgia in Cairo, which is a big culture shock for me and my family. Everybody talks about traffic and stuff. It's funny when they talk about traffic here compared to Gwinnett County and Metro Atlanta, but down there a traffic jam is getting behind a John Deere tractor.
Yes.
So we spent some time, three years down there. My wife was able to come home. That was part of the deal. She said, "I'll move with you down there. You can chase your dreams, but I'm gonna stay home with the girls." So she was a stay-at-home mom, which was awesome. And she, after 3 years there, we weren't looking. Marquise Westbrook got the job at Warner Robins, and he called me, and I thought I owed it to myself to at least talk with him and see what he had to offer. And I knew that they had been to some state championships, and obviously as a coach you want to win it. And again, my father-in-law was still, he was a warrior with cancer. He had it for over 8 years, and he spent, we needed to cut down that drive. My wife was going back and forth, and so coming to Middle Georgia cut that drive. He lived in Marietta, and so we took this job at Warner Robins, spent 3 years there, went back-to-back state champions, and then fortunate enough to get this job here as head coach, and fulfill my dream of being a head coach. And it's been a whirlwind.
Well, you said a lot of things I want to unpack for your journey, because again, it is a journey that you have been on. And one of the things that stand out to me is you basically worked 3 jobs to put yourself back into school and get your second bachelor's degree. I know people are listening and watching that maybe they're starting a business, maybe they just started out anything in life, marriage, school, whatever it is. What made you go, you know what, I'm going all in on this?
Well, I just knew that, being in sales and traveling around the United States was not something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And dating back to when I was a kid, and even to this day, my father has a job that, to be quite honest, he hates going to work every day. And I just told myself, I'm not going to do that.
You said something right there. I don't want to run past that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people, and I've studied this one time, where, 60-70% of the people hate where they're going on Monday morning. And so just you getting going, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to chase my dream or my passion.
Right.
So speak on that for a second. People are like, struggling with what they hate doing. And so what did it cause in you? I know it had to be fear involved or whatever.
Yeah, there was fear, because I was young. I was an entry-level position in what I was doing. I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was making a living, and I had an apartment, and I was supporting myself, no longer on the parents' dime, so it took a leap of faith to kind of just say, you know what, I'm going to resign from this. I'm going to go back and, work 3, odd and end jobs to try to make ends meet so that I can put myself through school. But throughout the process, I feel like that I was just, you got to lean on a higher power. And for me, it was to lean on God to lead me on my next path. And I've been very fortunate, Jeff, to everything that's happened to me in my life. It's like everything's fell into place.
Yeah.
Now, I've faced some adversities, obviously, but I just try to one day at a time.
Yeah.
And so I've been really fortunate.
That's good. You talked to something there, man. Take that leap of faith. I like that. One thing you said also that stands out to me, just speak on that for a second, because you're in that position now, you have this platform to influence and impact high school kids. I grew up the same type way and was in sports, and you said something about the coach in high school who really impacted your life, influenced your life. So how did that happen in the sense of going, what did you see from him that really just influenced you in a positive way?
Well, I think everybody remembers when you play on a team, you go to practice every day, it's monotonous, you're doing the same thing. You got to have a high capacity for boredom. You're doing the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
And but those talks after practice, you never forget. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that they tell you while you're sitting there listening, will just stick in your brain forever. And so I try to make sure that winning is obviously why we're here. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, we're trying to make better men out of these kids, and so trying to be a good influence for them. Now, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect.
Right.
But I think letting your players know that you're real and you can make mistakes and you can admit your mistakes gives yourself a connection with them. Right. It's hard to explain.
No, I got you. No, I think it is true. The impact we all have on somebody, but especially, again, the opportunity you have as being a head football coach, young men, culture, generational. So it is a great opportunity for you. And you learn that even along your journey, your story. So some of these stops and some of these places you've been, tell us about process, because I think a lot of times, we hate process. We want to go ahead and just be the president of the company the next day after we graduate school or whatever.
Right.
But you had to go through some processes.
Sure.
What did it teach you? Did you ever feel like in the process, man, I'm just never going to get to my dream? Did you ever feel like quitting? Kind of talk about the process of stuff you had to learn, because you went through many, I say many, but different schools and different years of service there as a coach.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think my story is a little different than most, just because I was given an opportunity to run an offense at an early age, and I wasn't ready and I wasn't very good at it. But through that process and through making mistakes and fixing it, I think I've been able to better myself every year. But a lot of coaches spend several years, as a JV coach, ninth grade coach. I've just been very fortunate and blessed that, like I said, everything's really kind of worked out for me. And, a lot of times I feel very undeserving. But I try to do the very best that I can. I think that I've got unique characteristics about myself. I'm a little bit OCD. I like things in order. Okay. So I think by being organized, it's helped me out throughout my journey. But, it's every stop you try to pick something from the head coach. And so every school that I've been at, I've learned some things, what to do and what not to do, or what I wouldn't do. Yeah. Not that it's right or wrong, but I think that one that's impacted me the most was probably I worked 1 year as a ninth grade head coach, so on a lower level at North Gwinnett for Bob Spire. He's won a lot of football games, but I was able to see how he ran a whole, a big-time program and do it the right way. I've sat, this was before we had Huddle, where we trade film online. Everything's obviously online. Yeah. So I was the one making the DVDs that we traded on the weekends. And I just remember him sitting in the office with a certain star player, and I heard him have to kick him off the team because of choices that he made. And I thought, well, why would you do that? Like, he's going to help you win games, but it was the right thing to do for the team. So, for me, being in there in the back, kind of, I'm working, but I got to hear things like that and see some of the things that went on. I saw how it's the right way to do things. Right. And so it impacted me, and, to this day, I mean, he's had a huge impact on my life.
That's good, because I'm really catching things you're saying, because because I think everybody, we all tend to think, well, I don't want to fail. Like, failure is a bad thing, but really it's not, right? You learn something from failure.
That's right. And we talk to our team all the time about practice is it's a laboratory for learning. And failing is learning. So when you make mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes in practice. Now, we may get on your butt a little bit, as coaches, we're all competitors. We're intense, but we're trying to not make the same mistake twice. Right. And so by learning, whether it's a play or something that they do in the class that maybe isn't what they should be doing, we just try to be good mentors and correct them and hold them to a standard. Yeah. Some of these kids, they at home they're held accountable, and some of them aren't. And so I think they learn a lot from being a part of our program.
No, that is so good, because I think one of the benefits of being involved in sports, we talked about this before we started our podcast, is about, I grew up playing sports, and obviously you did too, but it taught me a lot of life lessons in sports, and so kind of just speak on what you feel like kids learn from you, because again, a school this size, you you have a lot of opportunity to influence a lot of people, not just people on your team, right? So what do you feel like you teach that is helping kids that you see in the last, I don't know, 16 years of coaching, but especially the last 2 years here?
Yeah, well, when I got an opportunity to be a head coach, I knew that there was some things that we wanted to preach on, really.
Okay.
I mean, we're kind of like a preacher of our own,
Yeah.
Not on your level, but,
No,
it's, we teach our core values throughout our program. We talk a lot about a 1-0 mentality, which means, whatever happens, good or bad, put it past you and go to the next play or the next thing that happens.
I like
that. Every day of the week we have different core values that we hit on, whether it be energy, toughness, discipline, family, competition. And so we've got sayings that they know and that we teach in the off season that carries over through the season. So, like for example, like today is a Tuesday, we talk about toughness, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Things are going to happen that you don't like, but how you respond is crucial. And so we try to teach these kids, their response is more important than what happened. And people are watching. A lot of these guys don't realize the impact they have on these little kids.
Right.
They all want to wear number 2 because A.J. Hill wears number 2. And they're always watching him. So everything you do, you're in the grocery store, you're high profile. Everybody wants to watch what you're doing, and you're under a microscope. And it's a big task, but you've got to make sure you live the right way.
Yeah, I love that. That really helps me right there because, again, a person has influence. Doesn't matter their age, right? I mean, they're,
right.
I don't know, 16, 17 years old, whatever, but they're influencing a younger generation. That's such a great, I guess, generational thing people see from athletes. That's one of the benefits of being an athlete because you do have an influence.
Absolutely.
Impact. That's so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that about that. But I want to ask you to talk about the generational of guys that are coming up that you've seen gone on from here or from Warner Robins and what they're doing now to give back. Do you ever see that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it was
the importance of that.
Yeah, it was interesting. I haven't seen it really to the point where they're not old enough now that I think that I can see what they're going to do from a career standpoint. I do have a lot of players from previous stops that still reach back out. And, this day and age, you got Facebook and things like that, so you can reconnect with people or see what they're doing. But it's always cool. Last week we played Warner Robins, and there were several of the players that I coached at Warner Robins that were at the game. They come out, after the game, give you a hug. And so, when they do that you made a small impact on their lives and that they want to come say hello. And so I think that's gratifying as a coach, to know that, what you do every day. I spend more time with these kids than I do my own, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I got 3 daughters. My wife is a superhero. She's a lot of time like a single mom at home because I'm spending the majority of my time with my 90 sons that are on my, football team.
Yeah.
So you try to do what's best for them and you try to impact them because you do spend so much time with them.
I don't think people realize, because you just said something again, I don't think people realize the sacrifice it requires and just the level of commitment it takes from not only a football coach, but you're the head football coach. The old saying, the buck stops with you, man, regardless of what happens, it's always going to come back to you. But I don't think people realize the sacrifice, commitment it takes. So tell us about the importance of having somebody that will support you, namely like your wife in this situation, not only support you need and people need in life, regardless of what they do, again, the support and having the right people around you when it comes to either partnership, because y'all have already made a great impact in the community. I know since you've been here at Houston County High School the last 2 years, y'all really reach out to the community, really get partnerships going to help the school, to help the team, all that. So support, partnership, and having the right team around you. Just kind of speak on that when it comes to you.
Yeah, I think that's, we've got this thing going now here at Houston County of Highway 96. It's kind of our new thing that we've got out there and put on shirts and hats. And, I think that community is huge. And like you said, we reach out to, local churches, local businesses to help support us. And then we try to give back to them as well. We bring several people in to speak to our team, guest speakers. one being your son, who's
Yes.
came in and spoke, did a phenomenal job for us. But I think that the support that I get from home, from my wife, it's hard to explain. It's unbelievable what she's able to do, with me not being there in the fall. Now I try to make up for it in the off season,
Right.
but this is a 12-month-a-year deal. Everybody thinks it's just during the season, but you're constantly, whether you're doing recruiting, for college recruiting for the kids, or in the season, it's a grind. It's really a 6-day-a-week deal. After church on Sunday, we're here until 9, 10 o'clock, game planning for the next week, trying to get the kids ready. So it's a process that we go through, but being able to manage not only players but adults. I got a staff of about 19.
Yeah.
So you're managing a lot of personalities, and fortunately here I've got an unbelievable staff that does a great job. I'm able to delegate things out, and we really got a strong bond that I haven't experienced in any other staff I've been on. It's really hard to explain.
What do you think created that?
Well, when I got the job here, I was able to hire 2 of my best friends.
Okay.
So a lot of people say don't hire your friends, because
Yeah.
you may have to fire them one day, but not the case here. I was able to hire both coordinators that were with me from Warner Robins. My offensive line coach is my offensive coordinator. He came from Warner Robins, Kelly Chastain, and then our defensive coordinator here came from Warner Robins, Jordan Singletary. And they both do a great job. They understand me. They understand the things that I'm looking for in the staff, and they kind of spread that word throughout with our offense and defensive staff. And we've been able to add some other good coaches here this offseason to add to our staff.
Yeah.
And all that is accredited, to our administration. I talk about them a lot when I have an opportunity to speak, but, we had our principal that hired me moved on to the board office, but in return, our assistant principal moved up, and he's done a great job of carrying the torch and just kind of building on the culture of the school, which I think is big.
Yes.
This school is not only good in athletics, but great in academics and fine arts. I mean, if you go watch the One Ag play, they're phenomenal. They might be the most talented in the entire school. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But having their support and giving us what we need to be, successful is huge. If you don't have that, I think it's hard to run a program the right way. So I'm very fortunate in the situation, the people that are surrounding me. It's really more about them.
No, I love it. That's why I love doing this podcast, hearing from people like yourself, because again, I know it's teaching life lessons to everybody, again, watching or listening, because without support, without partnership, without teamwork, without the right people around you, you can only do so much by yourself.
Right.
So you have the vision for the culture and the vision for developing that in a system here, and it's working great because you got the right people around you. So I encourage everybody, try to get the right people around you to do greater things in life, huh?
That's right.
Coach, you're teaching some great things. I got really just 2 more things before I let you go. You said something a minute ago I want to kind of just ask you to speak on for a second, the people watching, because nobody likes to be uncomfortable. We all like comfort, like air conditioning. We all like everything's just got to be comfortable. We get kind of like I feel like paralyzed or stuck when we have to step into uncomfortable things. So what have you learned in your life and your journey, in your story so far that taught you uncomfortable really is basically the only way to grow?
Well, I think back to, in college at Georgia Southern, I had to take a public speaking class.
Yeah, okay.
And I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I think everybody can probably attest to that. When you take that class, you got to speak in front of everybody. And so that was always a fear of mine growing up, speaking to large groups of people and things like that. And so, now as a head coach, you're the face of the program. You got to run banquets, you got to speak to people and do interviews and all that stuff. And so, I've had to overcome that fear, and it's been a process. You speak to the team every day, and so, I think that's been a big deal for me, overcoming that fear of being uncomfortable, and I guess that would be the one thing that I can really, date back and think that I've tried to change.
I think it's a powerful thing because, we've all heard this, and I think it is true. The number one fear people have is public speaking. And to overcome that and to keep pushing through and learning and growing as you go speaks volumes about your character and your determination to be uncomfortable in a place you're at. I love that. So as we close this, I always ask people this in some form or fashion. You've said a lot. You really, out of your story, you have taught a lot. I know people are catching that as they're hearing this and watching this. But if somebody's listening right now, watching, and they need to be like inspired about, they're about to start a business, or they're about, I don't know, it could be anything on their journey. They're trying to start working out, they're starting a college, it doesn't matter what it is. What could you share, like just 2 things that kept you going when you felt like quitting, and that would encourage us not to quit? Do you ever feel like quitting though?
No.
Stopping on your dream.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have setbacks.
Okay.
Again, I go back to what we teach the kids every day is it's not about what happens, it's how you respond.
Okay.
And so, again, there's always adversity in life. It
Okay.
doesn't know what, you never know what it's going to be or when it's going to hit. You can't control, the events that happen. You can control your response, which, is going to ultimately, determine the outcome. And so, I feel like that, no matter what happens, I've had several deaths in the family, my wife's family throughout, really the last couple years that have hit us as a family hard, and, a lot of people that impacted my life in a great way. And so, now you try to live through them. Try to set a legacy for yourself and make an impact. When you lose somebody that made a huge impact on your life, you think about when they die. Everybody is, how are they going to remember you? And I think it's important to make sure you're doing things that it's not always about winning football games.
Right.
I think that's great, but people aren't going to remember that for the rest of your life. The big game that you won, or however many points you scored and things like that. It's like what we tell the kids. They're not going to remember the touchdown passes that you threw, but they'll remember if you weren't a good person, if you didn't treat people good. So, I'm not perfect by any means. I'm not sitting here claiming that I am, but I do reflect a lot on things that I do, and I'm my own worst critic. And so I try to fix the things that I screw up, try not to make the same mistake twice, and try to respond in a positive way to things that happen to me. And, sitting behind, the head coach's desk, a lot of things come at you during the day that you don't expect. And how do you respond to that? How do you handle those things, I think, are crucial to your day-to-day process.
That is so good. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem, man.
How you respond is the key thing because you can't control.
That's right.
I like that.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to preach on that. How you respond, things you can't control. Thank you again, Coach
Yes,
Edwards,
sir.
for your time. You did
Yes, sir.
just a great job of inspiring us and motivating us. We pray great success rest of the year for Houston County High School.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank
Yes,
you, sir.
Thank you.
Make sure you join us next week for another episode of the Other Side of the Story podcast. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe. Listening, hey man, share this with somebody that's going to change their life. Have a great week.